Hello, everybody. Welcome.
See the names piling in.
Hello. Welcome, welcome. It's good to see you all.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Hi, hi, hi. Some new names, some names I recognize. It's good to have
Definitely.
everybody. Hello. We're going to give it a little while so that everybody can join and make sure they're all set up. We're expecting a big turnout today, so we'll give it a little bit extra time than usual. In the meantime, though, type in the chat where you're coming in from. We want to hear, we know this is a project that connects us all, so we want to see where you're coming in from. Oh, Seattle, Oregon. Wow. Oh my goodness.
Oh, they're coming in fast.
Yes.
Oh,
hello,
that's
everybody.
a little fast to read. Oh my goodness. I see
Hello.
Tennessee and New York coming up a lot. San Francisco, Chicago, Minnesota, Philly, Oregon, Idaho.
Cold
Oak
areas.
Park,
Areas where it's good to have a blanket to cuddle up with. Yeah. Oh, welcome. Hello, everybody who's just joining. It's good to see you. Good to have you here. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Tennessee, Washington, New Jersey, New Mexico, England. Hello. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you all.
Is it snowing anywhere else today? It is in Chicago.
Oh. Awesome. It's so good to see you all. Welcome, welcome. All right. We're going to give it just a little bit longer just to have everyone join.
Still people in the waiting room.
If you're just joining us, welcome. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Oh, someone's en route to go skiing. Oh, how fun. Let's see. We know we've seen a lot of people say this is their first knit along. If it's your first knit along, put a little emoji in the chat. We'd love to see how many people have decided to pick this up for their first project, their first knit along.
Yeah, it's really interesting that people chose the blanket. So many people chose the blanket to be the first knit along.
Right?
Not usually.
Ambitious.
Not what we expected.
Oh, beautiful. So many. Wow. Oh my gosh, this is amazing.
I wouldn't take on a blanket without a little accountability. Same.
Oh, perfect. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I see some of you raising your hand. We're going to have a Q&A session later, and we can answer any questions you have later. In the meantime, feel free to write those in the chat, and our moderators will help. Let's see. Okay, let's see. I think I'm going to start spotlighting our team, and then we can go ahead and get the ball rolling. Let's do moderators. If you can help me add the spotlight, that would be great. Let's see. I think I've got everybody. And there we go. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our first knit along Zoom and Knit for the Prism Blanket Knit-Along. It's so good to have you all here. We're so excited. I'm joined today by our co-host Jaja from the customer service team, our customer service manager. And then we have Jessica from the fulfillment team, Lily from our customer service team, Allie from the e-commerce team, Kat from customer service, and Gianna from design. Thank you all for being here. Couldn't do it without you.
Yes, no, of course not. And like Margaret said before, our trusty moderators are going to be helping out in the chat. They're going to be collecting any questions they see, and if there are any quicker ones, they're going to try and answer them. But in the meantime, let's talk about this project. I saw people talking about the blanket and this needing that accountability. It's a pretty ambitious project to start the year off with, but it's been such a fun one for me, and like everybody else that I'm saying, just because it's such a good, engaging knit. It has that one more row mentality. There's so
Yes.
many colors to play with. I feel like once I finally start getting used to one color, I'm already almost done with it and it's time to move on. And it's something I keep finding myself coming back to, even though I'm pretty notorious at the company for probably having the most in progress like ever. But I've been pretty consistent about this. I just need my lunch breaks in between after work. I'm like, okay, it's blanket time. I'm just really excited about it.
There's always a new color to look forward to. So there's always something to keep it fresh and to keep it exciting. And you get to carry lots of fun colors around in your knitting bag. So who doesn't love that? But we've really loved working with Goodwool and getting to allowing Goodwool to have a place to shine for this knit along. It's such a springy and soft and special yarn that really helps to create a lightweight blanket that's still really warm, because you don't always want the heaviest blanket, but you still want one that's warm. So it's been really nice to get to work with Goodwool, and we have loved hearing everyone's feedback on Goodwool so far. It's so cuddly cozy. And I've even found that my cat likes to cuddle with me as I work on this blanket. So it's even kitty approved.
My dog likes to sit on it too, but more so just so I think she gets pets insane at the same time.
Yeah.
She can stay under it or over it. And for those of you that, I don't know how long you've been with us, but Goodwill actually originally for the longest only came in 5 undyed, all natural colors. And now it comes in a total of, I believe, 38 different shades. And that's just been something that's really been lending itself to the varieties of creations we've been seeing, because obviously we have the bundles on the website, the prepackaged ones where we have some swatches and samples so you can see how it turned out. But there have been a ton of people, especially the employees. I don't think any of the employees have gone for the actual bundles that have just been creating their own. And I know I, for example, had mine here where I went for a nautical theme and I decided to try and do, well, this is how much I have so far.
It's beautiful. I'm obsessed with your colors.
Thank you. I just, as soon as I saw it come out for the first time, I just went, I want a nautical one. Like, I'm gonna figure it out. And so it's been really fun to like just play around with it. If anyone's interested, the colors I used are Bellwater, Heirloom White, Roma Tomato, Pale Patina, and Seaside Blue. So I'm just kind of interchanging them for now. We'll see how I like it towards the end. How about yours, Margaret? I think you have a really just completely opposite one.
Yeah, I couldn't choose one like color family or even two. So I chose a little bit of everything. I wanted to, I was inspired by nature and the like elements around us. So I kind of did a color palette that was all the 4 seasons. We'll see more of my blanket later, but these are my colors. So this is Hayfield, and I believe I went with Barn Door. Nope, apple cider. Hayfield, apple cider, Heirloom White, Olive Oil, and Seaside Blue. So I've been loving them.
Yes, and you already started yours too, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
Those are just the skeins you still have to get to.
Yes, those are my unwound ones. Yeah.
The easier ones to take a picture of.
Right.
We're going to be talking more about colors and the schematic later, but just a reminder for first-time Zoom knitters that if you send a message to either myself or Margaret directly, there's a high chance we're not going to be able to see it just because we mainly have the moderators keeping an eye out for the questions. So we recommend emailing everyone, which I believe is the default in the chat, right?
Yeah, sending a chat to everyone. Yep.
Okay. So that's default. So just to make sure that it doesn't get missed, because we don't want to miss any of your questions. And we will be having a Q&A session at the end.
Yeah. We'll also be having a show and tell time if you have your blanket you started already, or if you have your colors that you want to show off. We'll have some time for that where we can bring you up and talk to you and hear about your inspiration or the colors you're choosing. And we're also recording this. If you don't wish to be recorded, you can turn off your camera and mute yourself. But we like to record these so they're available for people who couldn't join us live. As for what we're going to talk about today, we have some talk about color inspiration. We're going to talk about gauge. We're going to talk about shaping, the yarn over, knit through back loop, slip, slip, knit, knit 2 together. And we're going to talk about picking up stitches as you go from squares A to B. But first, Jaja's going to share some exciting news. So let's get started. Let me unspotlight and we will go ahead and get the ball rolling. Let me do this. All right, there we go.
I'm going to remove myself too, just because we're probably going to screen share in just a bit for now.
I think we're good. Yeah. Yeah.
Just you for now, Margaret. So the first bit of exciting news I have to share is that in addition to the bundles we already have, it's currently 10, we have 4 new ones that we're going to be releasing that we're going to have plenty of inventory for. And we're hoping to have official photos for that in the coming weeks. But in the meantime, we actually have some sneak peeks of what theirs are going to look like.
Here we go.
So this first one is called Heathland, where it's really pink, purples, a little softer, plummier look. Next, we have Apple Orchard with the greens and the orange. Very lovely, like this one.
Me too.
Stratosphere, oh, I love this one, definitely. With the light gray and the blues and purples, darker, just kind of like the universe almost.
Yeah, there's so many good blues and good wool, so this takes full advantage of those.
And it really takes advantage of that heathered look with the grays. And finally, Rocky Coast. So another, yeah, I would call this nautical too.
Yeah.
Against the weight rocks and things like that. And we're also hoping to have the classic undyed colors back in stock around mid to late March. So a lot of you have been emailing in asking about when we're hoping to have those back. It's mainly the undyed colors, wintergrass, heirloom white, that are out at the moment, but we do have a rush order because we want people to join before the knit along ends, of course. And obviously we will be providing support throughout the knit along, so no worries about that. But to know, the best way to know when these are coming out, we will have a newsletter for the bundles. But I would highly recommend actually entering your email in the respective bundle or the individual Goodwill page so that you can actually be among the first to know when it's back and get that alert. Okay, absolutely. So we do, of course, offer a number of these pre-made bundles. I think we're going to have 14 in total now. But you can obviously choose your own. A ton of us have done that. A lot of people online have done that. And we've just been really inspired by a lot of the ones that have come in. So we just wanted to share some of our favorites from people who have very kindly offered permission for us to share. So first up, we have, oh, I love this one. This one kind of reminds me of yours, Margaret, where it's really warm.
Yeah, they're using almost all the same colors that I'm using.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's by Heather Wenner. So thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Heather.
This next one is by Jen Geigley.
I love this one.
It's this one also kind of reminds me of the coast one, but
yeah, the perfect pop of green.
With the olive oil. Okay. Then we have Kelly. I love this shot with the diagonal.
Yeah, very fun. And we included the names here. So if you want to watch this back and write them down, they're there for you.
Yes, we're going to be, as usual, like Margaret said earlier, recording this, and once it's ready, it'll be posted on our YouTube account.
Yeah.
And finally, this one's really special. This is from Gabby from our design team, and she's actually one of the designers for this pattern. So it's funny to see she designed it, and then she still ahead and tried to make her own custom bundle, which I love. It's just so, again, I love the warmer colors because I usually see a brighter one in the background, but it's nice and warm.
Yeah, I love it. It's so punchy and like happy. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm. So moving on, talking about the actual setup of the pattern, it has both a schematic in the pattern that you download, the PDF, that helps you understand the placement of each yarn as you're working with it. And it also has a separate coloring sheet on the last page. And this one's supposed to help you select the order if you want to deviate from the original. And we highly recommend using these built-in keys at the bottom. Thank you, Margaret, for highlighting that. So you can play around with them. It's a good way to keep track. You can use a photo editing software if you have access to that. We've even seen someone take little bits of yarn to the coloring sheet for more analog feel. Just so you know, in our original design, the main colors will always appear in the top triangle, the one to like the left. You'll start with column 1, and your first square will consist of the bottommost triangle. So you're starting from there and going upwards. Then from the second column, up, down and up, down and up, and you're attaching along the way. We've also seen people try the following ideas. So here's a member of our design team again. This one is from Hiromi, where they made the top triangle all one color and varied the bottom triangles. So this one's really cool. She's also making her squares smaller. I think they're a 1/4 inch instead, or not a 1/4 inch. Was it?
I think there's going to be 4 of the standard squares in
Yes,
each
exactly.
actual square,
Yeah,
which
so
is
it'll
a
still
really
be
fun.
the big throw size, but she's just making it smaller and getting to play with that more. And I showed a bit of mine earlier, but I'm a big fan of kind of choose your own adventure books. And I use Clip Studio for this to just drop in what I felt like. And I like more of a symmetrical look. So I think I might try it out like this, where it looks more like a flag. I'm not sure how I'm going to like it at the end. We'll see. I'll get it if I have to.
I love it. I think it looks beautiful. I already told you, but I'm obsessed with your colors. So I think this is going to look so fun, and it goes to show that there's so many different ways to play with this to find something that really suits your favorite ways to arrange color. So there's so many options.
Yeah, I feel bad because I posted a few options and asked people what they thought, and everybody wanted the more random one. And then that's when I realized I didn't want the more random one. So go what's in your heart of hearts, you know?
Absolutely.
And finally, let me spotlight myself again. Come on back into the circle. Or square, rectangle.
Yeah.
We also wanted to mention, if you're having trouble choosing colors, every member of the customer service team and the knit-along scene has color cards. They're available online for purchase, but this is also what we're using when we're helping create the custom palette. I saw somebody thanking Kat for that earlier, and this is how we do it. So they come in these nice little rings, and you can buy them individually, or let us know if you want more than one, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, they're so helpful for really getting to play and see what you like before committing to a whole project's worth. So I just wanted to mention that. But you can also send us an email and we'd be happy to help if you have any specific questions. Like, I like these 4 colors, but not sure what the last one is. So we're always happy to help. Okay, so after you have your colors picked out and you're ready to start your blanket, the next step, of course, is gauge. So I'm going to switch to my document camera, and we're going to have a little talk about gauge.
Oh, actually, let me unspotlight myself so we can see this bigger.
So this blanket is all knit and garter stitch, which means that you are measuring the garter ridges, as you can easily measure the garter ridges to measure your row gauge, and then count the little frowns as your purl bumps for the stitch gauge. As with all projects, it's important to measure gauge before you start to make sure you're on the right track. However, we know we're knitters too, and we know that sometimes you're just so excited to get started and you just go ahead and start knitting and say, oh, I'll measure gauge later, or if it's a problem, I'll address it then. So we wanted to give some options in case that is where you find yourself. So this is the first square of my blanket, and if you wanted to measure gauge from your first triangle, the way you can do it is just simply rotate your triangle so that the garter ridges are running horizontally, and then you can measure the inner 4 inches from this triangle. And that way you can just start knitting, but also use what you've knit as your gauge and have like a dual purpose. So the other thing is to count each individual ridge for garter stitch. I have a bigger swatch here just to see. You'll count each ridge counts as 2 rows. So you would count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, like that, if you were counting the ridges. And then you'll be counting the frowns, the purl bumps. Sometimes stitches look like smiles and frowns. So you're going to count the frowns for each stitch. It can also help to stretch out your knitting and then measure as if it was like stockinette stitch. So it's 1, 2, 3, and so on. The gauge for this pattern, 22 stitches and 44 rows, or 22 ridges, equals 4 inches in garter stitch, excuse me. One other thing to measure, if you have your tape measure out and you wanted to get really technical, is that the selvage edge of your first triangle measures 11 inches after you've completed the 85 stitches, after you've increased up to 85 stitches. If you've knit your first triangle and you measure this and you're at a solid 11 inches, then that means you're on the right track, you're good to go. This is a good way to just kind of double check that everything is going well and will go well, because the square really defines the rest of the blanket, these dimensions. So making sure you're happy with this square is super important. The other thing is you don't have to worry about running out of yardage because there's a little bit extra yardage in each color for both the crib and the throw sizes. So if you're working at gauge, you'll have between 40 and 300 yards left over for each color. So it's okay if things get a little bigger than you expected, but just, you know, it's okay. You'll be fine. So
it's pretty generous for this pattern, which is comforting.
exactly. And it's nice because it's a blanket. It's like, you just want to get started. So, yeah, and that's gauge. As you continue on your blanket, the next thing that you'll come to is doing a yarn over and the knit through the back loop, which those are, I wanted to do some quick demonstrations of those, just if this is your first time knitting or you're new to this knitting project, just so we can help. So I have a little small square started here, or small triangle started, and I just wanted to take you through knitting a yarn over and knitting through the back loops. So the increases on this blanket are paired so that the diamond shape is equal on both sides. So when it comes time to do a yarn over, you're going to knit the first stitch as normal, and then you're going to just wrap your yarn around your needle without knitting a stitch, just like that. We'll do that again. Just wrap it around, and that way it puts another loop on your needle so that when you go to knit the next stitch, you now have 3 stitches where you used to have 2. So then you'll work to the other side of the triangle, and you'll do it again right before the last stitch. So here we'll do another yarn over and then knit this last stitch. And you can see where the yarn overs are on your needles because they look a little bit different than normal stitches do. They look a little bit sideways. And what would happen if you were to knit these stitches on the return row, if you were to knit them normally through the front leg, it would not close up this hole and in fact make a hole, which is a great technique if you're trying to make buttonholes or create eyelets or something. However, in this pattern, we're trying to close it up so it's more of a solid space there. So what you're going to do is knit this first stitch on the return row, and then as you knit through the back loop, we're going to identify where the back loop is on this yarn over. I like to use my pointer finger here to help twist the stitch, and then we're inserting it through the back loop there and knitting as normal, just like so. And that helps create an X here at the base of the stitch, and that way it closes it up. It's nice and sealed and you're ready to go. So let's do that again on the other side. And you always do the knit through back loop technique on the yarn overs on the wrong side. So here we are at our next yarn over. You can see it lays diagonally on the needle. I'm going to use my pointer finger to help move that stitch back, and then insert my needle into the back loop, wrap around, and pull through. You can double check your work, make sure it creates a little X there, and then knit that last stitch. And there you go. That's how you do a yarn over and knit through back loops. So this is what you use for the first half of the square, the first triangle, where you're increasing along these edges simultaneously. But then when it comes time to decrease on the second half of the square, I will show you how to do that. Let's grab this here. Okay, so I've used a stitch marker to mark the right side of the work just to help keep everything straight. The decreases will happen on the wrong side. So we're going to knit the first stitch and then do a slip, slip, knit, which means you're going to slip 2 stitches and then knit them together. So we're going to slip the first stitch knitwise, inserting your needle as if to knit and moving it to the right needle. Then we're going to slip the next stitch purlwise, as if to purl and move it to this needle. And then insert the tip of your left needle through the stitches you just slipped through the front, and then knit these two together, just like so. And this creates a decrease that leans in the way that you want it to lean, so that you have a nicely shaped decrease where all the stitches are kind of blowing in the wind of the direction that you want everything to go. So then on the other side, to do the other paired decrease, instead of doing a slip slip knit, next time we're going to do a knit two together. So you're going to go until there's 3 stitches left, so that you have the edge stitch left over, and then you're just going to insert your needle into both of these stitches, just like so, wrap it around, and then pull it through, just like that. And that creates, you can even see it right here, a decrease that leans to the right, which really pairs nicely with the slip slip knit. And that is how we start going. You can see my swatches already trying to go in like that. And that's how you do the paired decreases.
I wanted to talk about the SSK real quick because I kind of figured there were going to be people asking about this. There are multiple ways to do an SSK.
Yes.
That's one of the ways where you slipped it knitwise and then purlwise. Someone in the chat mentioned that the notes say to slip all stitches purlwise. And you can do that too. And I've also seen, and the way I do it, for example, is to slip both knitwise. So it's up to you. They will pretty much all give you the same effect. I just, as always, recommend staying consistent with whatever you choose.
Yeah, staying consistent is the best way to do it because it'll all look uniform afterwards. And you can see that on the right side of the square, everything is nicely shaped. And then on the wrong side, you can see where the slip slip knits happened and the knit two togethers happened.
I think the most important thing is to make sure you're knitting those last those 2 stitches through the back loop like you showed. So long as you're doing that, that should make sure it leans in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and some other tips we have for when you're starting this. One of the first ones we recommend is using a removable stitch marker. Do you happen to have some on? Oh, perfect. Oh,
Right here.
there you go. So some people recommend keeping a removable stitch marker on the right side of your work. That way you always know which side you're on at a glance. This is especially helpful when you're doing your first triangle. Because it's harder to tell and compare which side is right and which is wrong. Yes, the safety pin will work, anything like that, where you can just tack it in the center like that, and not the center of the front, so you can see it. Another way to see what's the difference between the wrong and the right side is that when you're looking at the wrong side and you're switching colors, there'll always be a single line of what looks kind of like a garter stitch where you can see the ridges. And that's just where you seam together. So that's the wrong side seam.
Yep, right here. This will always appear. It's just because it's in garter stitch. It's where the purl bumps just lock into each other. And it's the best way to identify whether you're on the right side or the wrong side is where the seam is. This is the wrong side with the seam.
And another helpful tip, which I hadn't think about, but we saw it from @Erin Knits a Bit, where they use interchangeable needles for keeping track of the decreases. And they had a different one. I think it was metal on one end and wood on the other, so they can tell when they were starting which was the right and which was the wrong side. And I thought that one was really clever too.
Oh, she's here.
It has worked great throughout.
We're
Great.
so glad to hear that. That's awesome.
So just wanted to share those. I think that was, yes, keeping the stitch markers. So when in doubt, stitch markers.
Yes, and
so helpful.
It's helpful to have a removable one so that you can move it with you as you travel throughout the blanket. So this used to be right here, and it used to be right here, and then now it's over here. So a well-traveled stitch marker. So, all right. So after you've got your first square done, this is really the foundation brick for this whole blanket, where once this square exists, then you can build the rest of the blanket off of it. So we wanted to talk about how to pick up stitches for this blanket because it is a little different than how you traditionally would pick up stitches. And we wanted to highlight it because this creates a nice smooth seam, which I kind of wanted to see if I can show just how smooth this is. I mean, there's a little bit of a ridge here, and there's going to be a little bit of a ridge here, but if you were to insert your needle in between the stitches instead of along the side, which I'll demonstrate in a second, it would create a higher ridge that is still nice and still looks great. If you're doing it, it's okay. But we recommend doing it this way so that it is a nice smooth seam, because there are many seams in this blanket. It is a join as you go blanket, which I love, but that is just a way to make sure that that hard work you're doing to join as you go stays consistent throughout. So let me switch over. I'm going to use this little guy here to demonstrate how to pick up stitches. This is when you go from square A to square B. So we'll count this as my square A. And then I'm going to cast on 3 stitches in this new yarn. This is my new favorite color. I've informed everybody that I love this color.
Is it the golden green?
Oh, it's so good. This is
yes.
one of my favorites. So we'll cast on 3 stitches, and then we're going to knit the first 2 and leave the last one unworked. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to slip this last stitch, slip purlwise right here, just to the right needle. And now we're going to come join to this square. Let me zoom in a little bit here, just so we get everybody nice and clear. Okay. So the first stitch you're going to pick up is going to be this frown, this purl bump right here. This is going to be the last garter ridge of your first color, which will help to push the seam together and really make it a square. And it will just help you really pick up at the very beginning so that all of these stitches will count towards your next square. So we're going to insert our needle just like that into the purl bump, and then take your new yarn and wrap around and then pull through to pull up a new stitch. That's a little finicky here, but there we go. So now we have 4 stitches on our needle, and we can pass this slipped stitch over the new stitch, which I like to help this process by holding the yarn taut with my right hand. There we go. So now we have those 3 stitches. Passing the slip stitch over really helps to secure this new square to the previous square. And another concern that comes up at this point is supporting this work, because if you're dangling the work, it can sometimes get a little heavy, especially as you add more and more squares. So a member of our team, actually Jess in the fulfillment team, she recommended pre-threading all of your stitches onto your needle. And that's why I recommend using a longer corded needle for this, a circular needle. And you can thread all of these stitches on, just pass your needle right through. I'll do one real quick. Just to come.
Can you bring your swatch a little lower?
Thank you, Shaw.
There you go.
You're going to go right in here, and of course, there we go. And just start threading these on, not picking them up yet, just putting them on deck. And then as you come down from the right side, you knit one more and then return back and then keep going. If you do this route, it's a great idea to just thread all of them on and then use stitch stoppers at the end of your needles just to prevent anything from falling off if you put this down. But another idea is just to continue working from a flat surface. So if you have like a pillow on your lap as you're knitting, or if you're working at a table, that can really help to support this, the weight of this as well. So I'm going to go back to this demo here. We're going to turn around and knit back along the wrong side so that we can show how to do the next stitch. Let's go here, and
I saw somebody mention in the chat that you're not using circulating needles. The only reason is because she has a smaller swatch right now. On her bigger example, she has the circular needles, so you can turn around those corners more easily.
Yes, this is just for demonstration purposes, but we recommend circular needles, of course. So thank you for catching that, John. Okay, so next row, next stitch we're going to pick up, we're going to do a knit one.
Sorry, can you bring it down a little more?
Thank
There
you.
you go.
I get too excited. Yarn over, knit one, and then we're going to yarn over just like that. Let me get this out of the way here. There we go. And then we're going to slip this last stitch onto our needle. And now the next stitch we're going to go into, this is where we have to identify where the garter ridges are. This garter ridge right here is the first one of the new color. And if we follow it up, it ends right over here. And this purl bump, this outermost edgemost purl bump is where we're going to insert and pick up our next stitch. So you can see right here, that's the stitch. And if we follow this logic all the way around, we have one here, we have one here, and you can start to see these little stitches start to appear in a pattern. So I'm going to, with my yarn over, slip stitch, we can insert our needle into this purl bump, wrap our yarn over, and then pull it through. Now, things might look a little crazy here for a second. That's okay. It's part of the journey. We're going to take our left needle and we're going to identify the slip stitch, which, remember, the yarn over looks like it lays diagonally on the needle. The slip stitch will look like a standard knit stitch. So we're going to identify that one, pick it up, and pass it over this new stitch, which secures it to the blanket, to the square. Yeah. Then we're going to go on the return side, and remember, we're going to knit through the back loops now for the yarn overs. So we can move that around, knit through the back, knit one standard, knit through the back, and there we go. We have a little bit more of our triangle formed. And you can see this, if we really pull it out here, it's a little bit loose because we just joined our new color and we can weave in those ends later. But you can see that that's where this new triangle is starting from. I think I'm going to demonstrate this in good wool as well, just to have it.
Because I'm seeing some concerns definitely in the chat right now. One, multiple people seem concerned about how to access the stitches if they're on the needle already, like you have there.
Yeah.
And in general, I think people still seem a little intimidated by the actual join.
Yeah, it can be a little scary, but that's okay. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
We're happy to help.
I think one thing that might help to just mention too is that when you're passing that slip stitch over, I know just even the word passing it over sounds a little weird, but it's essentially binding off. So what you're doing is you're binding off that stitch,
Yes.
the same process that you would do at the end. So that's what you're doing to connect the two.
Yes, that's a great way to describe it, like to help conceptually think of it that way.
But since the threading thing wasn't in the pattern, like some people are saying,
this is just an idea.
Yeah, this
you do
is
not
just
have
optional,
to do it.
completely optional.
Yeah,
I think it's more so, it's helpful more if you're doing the second column on when you're joining the two squares together.
Yeah, this is let's
maybe we should do that more the next time and focus on like what it says in the pattern for now, just to make sure that part's clear.
Absolutely. So here we have my blanket in good wool, and let's try to be really clear here so that we can see where these purl bumps go.
Yeah,
okay.
Since this yarn's a lot thinner, so it's easier, it's harder to see for sure.
Yeah, let me get my camera set up. Thank you. Okay. So we see the garter ridges that go along here. I like to think of these as like the edges of a lasagna noodle. They look kind of wavy, and it can help sometimes to stretch your fabric to really isolate these ridges, but going into the main fabric of the triangle to identify where these garter ridges are is what will help bring you to the edge to find the purl bump. So if we go over here, the next stitch to pick up will be right here. There's a half of a smile right here. There's a frown here, smile here, frown here, and we can go all the way down the thing like that. But this is the stitch we would be picking up. and we would knit it and then pass the slip stitch over. I'm not at that point in this the swatch here, but that is how you identify it. So it's right here. This is where you pick it up. If we go here, it's this guy right there. I know it can be difficult to see, but following the garter ridges is the best way to help identify what edge you want to work into, just like that. Yeah. The other thing, let's see, one other thing to say, that the thread on the needle thing was just an idea that we had, that if you're more advanced and you're interested in finding a new way to try something new, that is what that's for. But this is a great way just to follow the garter ridges and to see where the edges are. I think, let's see.
Sorry,
I'm taking a look at the chat right now.
Yeah.
When picking up stitches, are you always picking up a frown? It's basically every other row. Yes. This is because when you return, so you do the right side and you go pick up a frown, and then you go back on the wrong side, that is filled in. There's another row that's filled in there. So that's like a every other kind of pattern that starts to emerge. So you're always increasing by 2 on the right side. So you'll always have the right number of stitches. And if you count these frowns along the way, you'll have about 40 or so, which you're working to 85 stitches. So this mathematically adds up as half of the amount of stitches. And yes, I will do it one more time. Let's see. Back up just a little bit. There we go. Okay. So we're going to knit the first stitch. Do our yarn over, which I saw some questions about whether or not we're wrapping always the same direction. Yes, I recommend keeping it consistent and do back and around to the front. Then going to knit as usual to right before the last stitch, yarn over, slip this last stitch, and then we'll go here and identify where we're going, which will be this purl bump right here. We see this is the one that's all the way on the edge. If we went here, we would be on the next row, which is why we want to go into this one. As you can see that this, oh, I'm shaky here, hang on. Okay. This one, this frown here, is paired with these right down the row. So this is just continuing on. It's the next stitch in this purl bump. So we'll insert our needle into that purl bump, wrap our yarn around, and then you can also use your left needle to lift this loop off and pull it up and over, just like that. And then do that again with our slip stitch, which to help identify that on your needles, this yarn over is the one that goes diagonally. Slip stitch looks like a normal knit stitch, and then the picked up stitch is obviously going to be the last one on your needle. So we can grab that. And to double check your work, we want to make sure that we end with 1 stitch, yarn over, the rest of your stitches, yarn over, 1 stitch. We see that start to form there. And then we'll go back on the wrong side.
Can you show the wrong side a little more stretched out when you finish this row? Because a lot of people want to see the wrong side.
Yes, absolutely. And I think I want to show that on my good wool blanket too, to show that. Let's get that. Go knit through the back loop. And there we go. So we can see this next. This is the wrong side of the work with a few stitches joined so far. You see we have the seam from changing colors, and then we'll have these stitches going along this line. Let's switch over to my good wool swatch to show what the wrong side looks like at the seam. So here is the wrong side. And we can see that there's these little like tick marks that appear, and that is from wrapping the yarn, doing a yarn over and then picking up a stitch. So you're kind of bridging that gap behind the slip stitch. So that's what these little tick marks are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a nice, smooth, consistent seam that is definitely gets stronger as you go on. So we suggest supporting your weight, you know, maybe working the first few rows flat, and then we'll be good to go. Let's see. Oh, I see a question asking if you show how to join a new color. That is a great question. It's super simple to start knitting with the new color. You just start knitting. You really just pick it up. So let me show you on this swatch, which we're on the right side here. And I will grab some yarn. Give me just a second. There we go. All right, so to join a new color, we're on the right side. Always start joining a color on the right side. And then you're going to insert your needle, leave this yarn as is, and then create a loop. Let me show what I just did there. So here's the tail, and here it's connected to the rest of the fabric. We're just going to create a loop and put it on our needle. I like to hold both ends just for this first stitch, just so it all stays taut. Pull it through. And there we go, we just knit. So you can tug on, you see how this first stitch got a little loose, we can tug on that to kind of tighten. Then to start knitting the second stitch, make sure you're not using the tail and instead using the one connected to the ball, and then just keep going. There's no need to tie a knot or anything like that. You just keep going. And then later we will weave in the ends, which will help really conceal what we just did. So it'll help conceal and trap those ends so that they're secure as well. And with good wool, it's so like, it's a nice sticky wool, which means it'll really disguise itself well in the fabric. So we knit our first row with the new color, and you can see that the seam is already forming on that wrong side there. And this is just a temporary seam that will only exist on this first row with the new color as you slip these white loops over the gray loops or whatever colors you're using. So yeah. Let's see, I think it's a good time to go to Q&A.
Yes,
What do you think? Okay,
yes.
I'm going to switch over to this camera for a second. Add Jaja back. There we go. And let's see, put your questions in the chat if you haven't already, and we can start taking a look at them.
Oh, wow, there are a lot of questions today.
Okay. Let's hear them.
So I just want to get a look at all of them.
Yeah, I see a lot of questions about weaving in the ends. That is something we'll definitely demonstrate. We plan to do that at a later Zoom. We will pop a link in the chat for the weaving in ends tutorial that we have. But the basic premise is that you're going to thread your end onto a darning needle and then weave it into the bumps of the garter ridges. And you can go along the garter bumps, you can go up and down and through, whatever your preference is. And you just do it long enough so that you feel like it's really secure. You don't want to do just a couple, you want to do maybe an inch or two at least, just so that it really is secure. And then you can cut the end and kind of pat the yarn into the fabric, and that'll help secure it. So yeah.
Yes. I want to talk about the picked up stitches because I've been seeing this come in again. The difference between what it says in the tutorial versus the demo. I keep seeing people say that the pattern and video tutorial talk about the outermost bump on the garter ridge, but the demo looks like the picked up stitch is right below the top bump.
Oh, yeah. So that is you'll be fine with either one. But
Yeah.
I'm going to switch to my document camera and show that these, what we're identifying here, maybe if I go a little bit darker, so it's not so overexposed. There we go. I think the question is about this right here, this in between. So there's this garter ridge and this garter ridge. This right here is from the wrong side. Remember how these garter ridges take up the space of 2 rows because you have 1 row here and 1 row down here? This is going to be from that return row. So the purl bump is still what we're going into, and that this little guy right here is from the in between rows, so from the return rows. So you're always going to be using the purl bump that ends the garter ridge. I hope that answers your question.
Going back to the top and then just coming forward, can you please tell me why my edges are not straight?
Yes, that is a good question.
Because sometimes I have been seeing some pictures that are coming out a little more rounded, around the end, in the middle, versus a straight square. Yeah.
Yes, sometimes you have just little bumpy spots throughout your project. That happens. I mean, this is my blanket, it happens. Blocking is a great tool for resolving that, and blocking pins as well. They're like comb pins where you can really help straighten this all out afterwards. The other thing you can do to help this is while you're knitting, make sure that the tension you're using on that first stitch is consistent. And that's something that takes a lot of practice, and it's okay. You have lots of opportunities to practice here. But that is the best thing I can recommend, is just making sure you're using the same tension as you go turn the corner in each row.
And if it's looking really off, I recommend sending us a picture over email.
Yes.
And we can probably figure out if there's something more strange going on from there.
Definitely.
Okay. We did that one. I would like to know how to fix a mistake, especially on a stitch I am not used to doing, like a knit over, or I think that's a yarn over, or a knit to the back loop.
Okay, that is, it depends a lot on the specific stitch. And I think the most helpful thing I can say here is to say, send us a picture of your work, because it'll vary case by case, and having a picture to understand, what might have happened is the most helpful. But you can use context clues in your work to help identify where things are. So this is a good way this is sometimes what I do. If I have a pattern and it's a complicated pattern and I left it at home and I'm with my knitting out in the world and I need to remember what I'm doing, I try and read my work. So I can look at this, my work here, and say, okay, let me go this way. Something's happening along this edge here, and something's happening along this edge here, but these look like normal knit stitches. So you can kind of go back and say, well, I know that there's supposed to be yarn over right before the edge. So if there's something happening in the middle, you'd say, oh, okay, something happened in the middle. It's clearly not a yarn over, or it's something unique to that situation. But if you know it's happening between these last 2 stitches or first 2 stitches, you know that it's likely due to a yarn over or knit through the back loop. So I would suggest just thinking about where it's located within your work to help identify what the desired end goal should be. But feel free to send us a picture. We're always happy to help and take a look at what's going on with your specific project. So yeah.
Next question. How would you suggest remembering whether I'm on the right side or wrong side? I can't tell and often lose my place and end up doing yarn over instead of through the back loop and vice versa. And the second part of that same question, I have some holes at the edges, which I think is due to my getting mixed up on which side I'm on. Any thoughts on how to catch these and close them up before I've gotten too far?
Yes, that's a great question.
We were talking about how to do the right and wrong side. Something that's happened to me is that when I first started the first triangle, I'm all about tallies. And so I was very good about marking the tallies when I finished one. And so I had a separate one for right side, a second one for wrong side. And I would make sure to only mark it off when I completed one or the other. I got lazy on the later triangles and then noticed I got I had enough for 83 stitches and not 85 and just ran out of space. And so I had to go back to the tallies. And I recommend the tallies if you're the kind of person that maybe you forget, or if the other things that we suggested earlier about the right and wrong side don't help you.
Definitely. And I would also say that
Mhm.
you can put a removable stitch marker at both ends of your triangle.
Yes.
That way you remember, hey, when I'm
I'm
holding
at that
a
end.
stitch marker, I got to do something. That will really help. And making sure, even if you write it down and say, okay, I have a stitch marker on the right side, which means I need to do this, that will help keep everything straight. The holes that you were talking about in the person who asked the question, those are definitely from working yarn overs and not knitting through the back loop. If you do not knit a yarn over through the back loop, you will create an eyelet, you'll create a hole. And that's great if you're trying to do a buttonhole or lace, but in this pattern, we're trying to close up that gap and make sure that it's a nice smooth seam. So you'll definitely want to go revisit those. You might need to work back a little bit and go knit those through the back loop, or you could also use a piece of scrap yarn to weave those in if you just have a really small thing you've started so far and you're seeing those holes, and then you could, from there on out, you can use the knit through the back loop technique.
Next question. My row gauge is consistently higher than my stitch gauge. Should I just knit the pattern as written or try to adapt to my gauge? Tried adjusting needle size, but that doesn't seem to make a difference.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would be curious how different the gauge is, because you can, if you're within a little bit, it's okay. You have, like we mentioned earlier, there's between, what was it, 400 or 40 and 300 extra yards. So there's enough room to play if you're knitting at a little bit larger than gauge. But I would definitely recommend sending us an email about that one with your specific numbers, like how much you're measuring and the needle sizes you've used, because it might be a half size needle that would help, or it might be something different. So we're happy to brainstorm with you to make sure that you're on track.
Yeah, because you want to be able to make right angles, which you should be able to with the right gauge. So if it's one side's off compared to the other, then it might be a little weird. So yes, I would recommend emailing for that for us just in case.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else you have, Jaja?
Oh, did someone answer this in the chat? I want to make sure curious about how much extra yarn there is in the contrast colors. If not, we have the numbers if someone could add that to the chat for how much each had. Thank you, Gianna. I see the thumbs up.
Awesome. I say
there were a lot asking us to show how to join the triangle, but I think we showed that.
Yes.
That probably happened before we showed it.
Yep. All right. I saw someone asking if they wanted to adjust the size of their squares like we showed with Hiromi's picture.
Oh, yes.
This is an odd multiple, which is why you cast on 3 and then work to 85. So if you wanted to work to like 27 or another odd number, you could. But that is an exciting adventure, and we'd love to hear how it goes.
Ooh, this is an interesting one. Can we move the yarn over to 2 stitches before the end to eliminate how hard it is to have yarn over, slip stitch, and join all next to each other? Did it change the shape of the square? It would, I would say, especially when you're picking up the stitches, because you really want to have that yarn over in order to, like near the the bind off stitch. You know what I'm saying?
I would recommend just trying it out on a small scale and see how you like it. Use maybe some scrap yarn that you have and just say, hey, am I happy with how this looks? And if you're not, then you're not. And if you are, you are, that would be a good way just to decide if that would really work for you. So yeah.
Oh, this is something that I wanted to mention earlier, but I don't know if we specified, but I'll admit when I first did my own blanket, I didn't pick up the stitches in the right place, just because I tend to prefer it in between the stitches. However, when I got to the end of the row, I realized I did not have enough stitches to pick up. And that's because it's almost like music notes where you see the treble staff and there's 5 lines, 4 spaces. There aren't enough spaces to get you the 85 stitches.
Yep.
So don't do it. It's best to do the garter edge, not to do the actual purl bumps, not the spaces. Because I saw somebody saying that they didn't have enough, and what to do if you don't have enough. And so I'll show you real quick. But fortunately, this happened towards the end where it wasn't as neat. And so what I did, since I had, I think 83 instead of 85, I did a little Frankensteining where I took one of the garter stitches, one of the garter edges, one of the lines, and then another of the ones. So it's a little squished in that corner. But I feel like unless you really go in, like you wouldn't see it. And this will probably block out, like, unless I mentioned it, I don't think you would notice.
Yes. All right.
But moving on, just because that was a more recent question I saw, what to do. So just kind of just squish it in between. You can fix it out. So long as it aligns at the beginning and the end, should be fine.
We're going to have a moderator put the instructions in the chat for how to raise your hand, and then we can pull you up on the screen. Let's see. We'll add you a spotlight and ask you to unmute, and then we can chat about your blanket.
Yes, and if there's any questions that we didn't get to, don't worry. We save everything in the chat and we'll review them so we know exactly what to cover next time and in what order.
Yes. Well, looks like we have Amy.
Amy.
Hello.
No, Amy.
Yes. Hello.
Hi. First, I'm going to apologize. I tried to send you a picture this morning, Jaja, and my phone wasn't working, and I must have sent you about 8 texts before the pictures finally.
It's okay. I was preparing for this, so it was just, I hope she knows I'll get to her soon.
Yeah, I was all prepared for you. So I think I'm going to rip mine all out because I'm not very proud of it. And you saw my first attempt was terrible. My second one isn't much better.
Oh, okay.
I think it looks great.
Yeah, I see where you're saying with the pickup stitches where it's it looks
I
like
think I was
maybe
doing what you were
one.
doing. I was going in between, but it's bumpy.
Yeah.
So it's a much higher ridge.
Yeah. So if I rip it out, if I rip down to my first square, I guess I can just redo the right stitches, or am I better off just redoing everything?
That's a good question, because each row relies on picking up a stitch as you go. So I think it's unfortunate, but you have to go back to the first square and pick up and work from there again.
Right, but that would be okay if I just take out this one square and just work from this square?
Yes. Perfect.
Yep. And one thing you could do is try to, I don't know if there's enough space. I haven't tried it. I know Kat tried to frog hers recently, but you could probably put some needles or some, like a safe line, right? In between, so that you don't have to just have them all loose and live.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you unravel.
Okay. Yeah. And I didn't cut the one when I just finished the second.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I at least have that. Good. So I need to rebuy, since I'm going to lose. Well, I guess I'm just losing the one square of the other blue.
You can totally reuse that yarn because it'll be
especially.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you should be just fine to just rip it back and use, like, roll it into a little ball and then pick up those stitches again using this technique, and then continue from there.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you.
And
Yeah, you bet.
We'll see how it goes.
Yes. I don't know. Jaja looks like she froze, but thank you for showing us your blanket. It's beautiful. And let us know how it goes.
But yeah, sorry for that.
Thank you.
Go and let's see, who do we have next?
We have Bridget Baker.
Hi, Bridget.
Hi, did I unmute? I think I did.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, this is my first square.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I usually, if the pattern is written by Joelle Hoverson, I usually have to go down one needle. So she, recommended a 6. So I immediately started with a 5.
Yes.
And in the end, on something like this, I know it's just, what do you prefer? How does the fabric look? But I got gauge. I really did kind of get gauge. And I just measured this while we were on this Zoom, and this is 11 inches. So I do think,
you're right.
I do think I'm doing okay. I was just going to recommend some others. The way I'm remembering, I love that idea of if you have interchangeable needles to do wooden and metal, which I don't have, but I am using stitch markers at each edge. And then I'm marking the other side, the right side with these tiny stitch markers, just so if I'm glancing up and glancing down, I remember which side I'm on.
Yes.
But the other funny thing I wanted to share is that I actually, here are my colors. Can you see these colors?
Beautiful. That's awesome. What a great way to
Ooh.
keep track.
Well, I did this because I had actually ordered during your Black Friday sale, the Goodwill
Okay.
triangle shawl. And I hadn't started it
Oh.
yet. And then you advertised this KAL for the Prism Blanket. I thought, I'll make a Prism Blanket. So I
Yeah.
emailed you guys and said, given my colorways, what can I do? And I bought 3 more skeins to make at least the
To
crib
make
size.
to the whole set.
Beautiful.
Oh, that's so brilliant.
So
I
that's
love
what I
it.
have. I have Pink Dawn and Heirloom as my mains.
Beautiful.
Lemon meringue, hayfield,
Mhm.
and
Beautiful.
wild mustard as my accent.
I love it. Those are such beautiful colors. Thank
Oh,
you.
Did you decide the other 3 colors yourself?
No, you
Or-
guys, Lily,
it was
yeah, no,
I was
I
really
sent it.
good
They
choice.
loved it. Yeah, I did a customer
Oh.
service email and she gave me 3 options and I grabbed this. So yeah, I'm really excited. So thanks for this today. This is
Yeah,
helpful.
of course.
Thank
I
you
love
so
seeing
much.
that idea too for the little was it a
Yes.
punch card that you used?
You know
Or
what?
like
I don't know where I got this idea. Honestly, I think I got it from Modern Daily Knitting, MDK, the girls down at MDK. They were doing a temperature blanket last year, 2022, which I did not do, but they were posting the ways to keep track of. And then you can just look at it throughout your project and remember
It's
what you're
beautiful.
doing.
I love how you make your life easier for yourself. It's inspiring.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
sharing. And that's a
and happy
lovely wrap
knitting.
you have.
Thank you.
Next up we have Denise.
Hi, Denise.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear
Yes,
you
we
just
can.
fine.
I just want to show one of the ways that I kind of keep track of which side I'm on and which stitches to do. I don't know if you can see, I can't see, but these are 2 of my colors. And so this is showing the right side. And at the beginning of the row, I have green stitch markers. I don't know if you see those colors.
Yeah.
And when I start, I mark the middle 5 stitches with red stitch markers.
Wow.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay.
10 stitches, put a green one, 10 stitches, put a green one. And then I do the same on the other side with orange.
Oh, perfect.
That's really clever too. That's just really
Yeah.
efficient. I like that one.
Do you
as
add them
well.
as you go?
Mhm.
As
Yeah.
you increase? Yep.
And so if I'm working on the wrong side, I see that, oh, I've got an orange stitch marker here. I know that this is the wrong side I'm starting on.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And then I stick a little additional one. This is kind of one unique color.
Mhm.
3 stitches before the end. So that's right, my reminder when I'm decreasing that I'm
Yeah.
going to knit 2 together on those last 3, knit 2 together, knit 1.
Yep.
Very smart.
That makes any sense. But
That's-
that really keep track of where I'm going. I can count these stitches at either end, and I
Yes.
know if I haven't got an equal number on both ends, I made a mistake somewhere. So
That's-
I catch it really quickly, you know.
That's-
Mhm.
Your accountability. I love it.
Yes.
You're keeping yourself honest. That's amazing. It's a great visual and like tactile, like physical reminder that, oh, I have to do something as I near this end. So
Right.
yeah. Thank
And
you
then
so much. Yeah.
Those 2 colors, and then I
Let's
have
see.
3.
Oh,
Ooh,
beautiful.
Nice, like just natural
fine.
colors.
And then, but I'm not using the same pattern. I kind of like created my own pattern
Good, good.
with the coloring squares. So it'll
Oh,
be different.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. It's great seeing your blanket and happy knitting and stitch marking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, you're welcome. All right, let's see who else we
We
have.
have Jill Cannon.
Hello. Let's see.
There we go. Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Yes.
Hi.
Yay.
Hi, Jill.
Hi. I am doing one of the pre-done blanket packets. So I'm keeping track in my bullet journal.
Oh, I
All
love
of my
that.
colors. and then I keep track of my progress so I can see visually,
Oh, another
which is
like
fun.
great way to do
But
accountability.
so yeah, I just started square 3.
It's beautiful. I love
But
Very nice.
bullet journal ideas.
I was having a hard time picking up the stitches each row. I think I just like pulled so tight I couldn't get it. It was so, you know, cumbersome. So I am doing the
Nice.
pick up all of them at once. But
Awesome.
yeah, it's been fun.
I love the bullet journal idea. That's so fun. I've seen people keep like sweater journals and stuff like that, but having a little piece of the yarn and a way to like color it in, that's so,
Yeah.
I love it. It's like a little scrapbook. That's
I know, it
amazing.
was fun. I
Yeah.
just started that for the new year.
Oh. Well, thank you so much for
New year, new
sharing.
project.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Next up, we have Tina.
Hi, Tina. Let's see if she'll. There we go.
Okay. I took your advice and I did the coloring,
Yes.
and then I put the names of the skeins of the colors, and then I put what they really are, like light blue, dark blue, because sometimes I got confused on my purples because they're so close, and then I color coded.
Oh,
it
very
does
nice.
make
Oh, yes.
a color coding. And
Very good.
I'm glad I joined the Zoom today because I have my first column done.
Beautiful.
I
Wow.
have my light to my medium to my bright purple back to
Oh my
my
goodness.
medium or darker purple. And I thought that I was supposed to do A down there, then B, 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 and start down
Oh,
here. But I just learned that I have to start up here
yes.
and go back down.
Yep.
So even though I had started this from
Oh,
the
no.
bottom, I'm so happy that, you know,
Before you
I
go
only
too
got
deep.
this far.
Yes.
But I do, you know how you're talking about front and back?
Mhm.
When I start my row, I have this waste yarn on this side where when I get up to my knit, the purl from the other side, the correct bump that I need to thread my waste yarn through as the pickup stick and pickup stitch, I mark it right there because I was getting confused. You know, you're on the knit side and you think that's going to create the bump, but it's not. It's when you're doing your back side.
Yep.
That's so cool.
That
I
creates
might
the
try that
bump
one
on the
myself.
front.
Did
So
you sew it
now I
in?
have every single, I do a few rows and then I mark it. So
Gotcha.
the bottom stitches get marked. I know it's not showing up well.
No, I
but
can see
no, we
that.
can
That's
see
really
it.
clever.
That helped me. It does take me longer to do it. And I figured by the time I finish column 1, I'd be able to visually see it. And
Yes.
now I'm more confident because it took me
Mhm.
3 blocks to figure out where am I picking up that bump.
Yes.
So,
Well,
but I'm really happy with it.
that's a
I love the
great
colors
idea.
and the feel.
Your colors are
it's 12.
stunning.
It's 6. I used your size 6 needles and your good wool, and it's 12 inches across, but I'm happy with, you know, the feel of the fabric.
Yep.
So
It's so
Extra
beautiful.
big, extra cozy.
Yes.
oh, and I took 2 colorways. I took your tuber, and then I took your, what was the other one? Another one. Anyways, I took the blues out of one of your bundles and the purples out of your other bundles. And that way you guys really made the color choices for me, but I got to choose, you know, purples and blues.
Beautiful.
So
Oh,
that's all.
thank you so
No,
much.
but I love the
Thank
idea
you.
and I love the colors. Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing.
We're gonna
Hey guys, Lily from customer service here. I just wanted to jump in to clarify something that Tina was asking about. So the order of which squares you join, there's a little confusion in the comments. So I just wanted to like jump in to clear that up. So you are going to be working in alphabetical order. So on your first column, you're going to start with square A all the way at the bottom, and then all the other squares are going to be B. And then the
Yeah.
next square you're gonna do is square C, which is actually all the way at the bottom. So you're
Oh,
gonna go back to square C, which is at the bottom, which is gonna be the start of all of your other columns. And then after you do that square C, the rest of the squares in that column are gonna be square D. So you're basically gonna be working up, up, up.
Oh, so it
like
was
that.
okay.
Oh, thank you
Okay.
so much for
I'm sorry,
clarifying.
that's what I
Lily.
thought at the beginning,
Thank
but
you.
oh my goodness, thank you, Lily.
Yeah, no
Okay.
worries. Hopefully it's clear to
Yes.
people now, because yeah.
Thank you so
Yes.
much, Lily.
A breaking news report from Lily. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Me- Yeah, breaking news.
Yes. And we can add an addendum to that and make sure that's clear when we do post this.
Yes,
Just for anybody
absolutely.
listening in.
Yeah.
And we have, just checking the time, you have time for a few more people. Looks like up next we have Nancy.
Let's see. Oh, can you unmute? Let's see.
Yeah, I think
We'll
there's
try one
usually a
more.
day.
There we
There we
delay
go.
since we have to actually let people mute. There you go.
So I had my first column and I started the second one. And I started from the bottom.
Okay. There we go. Confirming.
It's beautiful. Wow, I love your colors. Those are
It's
stunning.
one of the prepackaged and it goes with the room that I have. So I
It's-
sent a picture of it via email yesterday.
Oh,
Oh, for
thank
the
you so
giveaway?
much.
Yes.
So yeah,
It's
this is,
beautiful.
but that's the second column coming in.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Oh,
It looks like you're really enjoying this knit so far.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
am. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for showing.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see who we have next. There we go.
looks like we have another Amy Masters.
There we go.
Hi.
Hi, Amy.
I didn't think I was going to be ready so fast. This is so fun. I like you, Jaja. I have like
Yeah.
different projects, and this is the one I just want to work on. So,
So-
so also like you, I ran out of the pickup
Mm,
edge. So this is the second time around. So it's
Mhm.
super helpful to see that I was doing it the right way the
Mhm.
second time.
Good.
But when I get to this very corner, this is where I got nervous last time. I guess I'll just take it slow and read carefully how to attach the main color again. And I mean, I just
Yep.
attach it, right?
Yes.
Like, nothing's- okay,
I know it seems like it shouldn't be, but it is that easy. You just start knitting
Okay.
with it.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I made my own, so I'm using these colors, which are really nice. Really
Beautiful.
together.
I love
in this,
that.
like kind of browny gray color.
Mhm.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
Oh my
so
gosh.
I'm excited. I think
I
it's
like
gonna
the pop.
be really nice. Yeah, so thank
Yeah.
you. First time doing
Yes.
it, so thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you
Yes,
so
can't
much
wait
for
to
knitting
see
with
when you get
us.
further.
Yes.
Okay. How are you feeling? I feel like we have two more.
Do two more. Yep.
Yes.
We have Patricia in a beautiful sweater.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
I feel like I keep
Hey,
going
guys.
close to the camera.
Oh, sorry. Let's see if I can see myself and then I can figure out how to do this. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, there I am. Hi.
Hi.
So, I will tell you, my pup Pierre here, and I have just loved this project. First of all, I have to say, what's not obvious at all on your site is how heathery and beautiful the color movement is. So I'll show
Mhm.
you what I have done so far. And I am on straight needles because I'm real old school. And but here, so the top is here and it's a little scrunched up, but basically in terms of that needle.
It's
But here's
beautiful.
how it looks. And it's actually spot on gauge. These are 5s,
Okay.
and that's US 5s, and that's because that again, I do circulars, but I only do circulars like if I'm doing something in the round. But I will tell you, I absolutely love this yarn. I don't know if you can see this color. Let me get my light on it here. If you can see this yellow, but this yellow, okay, has
Mm.
such rich changes in, it goes from a buttery to like a soft, almost caramel. And it has just been so pretty, even as even almost a hint of peach, just a
Yeah.
tiny like fleck in there. Anyhow, it's really fun. The one thing I will say I discovered, and is the right side is critical to know. The second, as everyone was saying, the second is that, and I really struggled with the concept of getting to the edge. I found I have 2 bumps left over in my pickup row.
Yes.
One's the very edge stitch, and one is a true end of a garter ridge.
Yes.
And the garter, the second, not the edge one, but the garter, the true garter edge, is the main color then on the first of the 3 knit rows of that garter.
Okay, the first 3 stitches.
So yes. Well, no, the 3. You know how you do just a solid 3 knit rows?
Yes.
You're not doing any increasing, any decreasing at all. So the first one is to pick up this ridge, and the second to the end, and then the third, but then you go back and then you come back, and the third is this. So that was not intuitive to me, and I found that to be like, once I got that, I was like, okay, I got my 85, and I have to have a full ridge and an end stitch to pick up still.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that was like a whoa. Now I'm just brainless, and this is just so fun to do. And it's just like I have so many projects going, and this, I'm like finding myself like trying to figure out how to keep it low when I'm on a Zoom work call, because it's just so fun. And I just can't say enough good about this yarn. And I'm pretty picky about yarn, so I love this yarn, and I will be doing another project, which I don't know. I think this is beyond the scope of this particular Zoom call, but I will probably chat you on this. I would love to make this, but in the smaller triangles. And I don't know the ratio of the number of rows and stitches to those 3 solid knit rows where you're not doing any increases and any decreases. And somebody with a lot more math brains than I have probably knows that at your place. So, but at any rate, but that I think would be really a great gift to all of us in terms of just giving us an opportunity to make other projects with this yarn.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm so glad to hear you love this yarn. I'm obsessed with it too. It's the best. And we hope you really enjoy knitting the rest of your blanket.
Well, thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
Let's see. We can do one more, I think.
Yeah, I think just one more because we're coming up on.
Yep, almost at time. Let's see, we have, hello. Oh, I think you're unmuted. There we
Can
go.
you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Yes, now we can.
Yes. So I think I started a little earlier. So this is my blanket. It's almost.
Oh my gosh, look at that. It's
that's
beautiful.
Another the bundles, right?
Yes, it's so gorgeous.
I changed this color, the lighter one,
Yeah,
for this color, purple pencil instead of the lighter one, and I definitely started from the bottom.
Good.
You heard it here.
Good. Yes.
It's very entertaining knitting. I love it.
We're so glad. It's gorgeous, and it looks like you're having a great time knitting it. And
I'm already thinking about my second one.
oh my gosh.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful blanket. We hope you continue to enjoy.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Oh man, we had more people wanting to share this time than usual. I'm sorry we didn't get to everyone. But definitely next time. We'll keep an eye out for the ones that we have or haven't seen yet. And again, we are saving the chat so that we can time things out differently and schedule in terms of what you guys want to see the most, because that's what's most important to us as we're doing this knit along.
Yep. We also wanted to share one quick thing in the spirit of show and tell and sharing your work. Taking a picture of your work is always a fun way to like demonstrate all the hard work that went into your knitting. And we'd like to feature your work, your pictures on our website and on our social media and email newsletters. So if you're looking to get featured, or if you want to take just a good picture of your work, we had some things we wanted to offer as just things we look for and things that we make a good picture. Using natural light is always a great idea to make sure that the yarn colors can really shine for the like true tones that they are. Neutral and cheerful backgrounds, because it's such a happy project. You don't always have to show the entire thing. You can just show like what you're working on, your current square or triangle, or where they all intersect for that like pinwheel style. That's always really fun to see. But above all, it's so fun to be able to knit and just celebrate and share. So because it's, you know, a virtual knit along, we get to see everybody's pictures online. So we just wanted to share that here at the end. But thank you everybody for joining us for this Zoom in Knit. It was so much fun to see everybody. I already can't wait to get back to my blanket and keep knitting. Yeah, Jaja, you want to tell us where this will be, this recording?
The next one is going to be, because I see people asking already, March 18th. It's going to be a Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And so we'll be focusing on so much more next time.
Yep.
And as usual, this has been recorded, and it takes us about a week or two to edit and make sure that it gets posted to our YouTube channel. So if you're not already, I recommend subscribing so you'll get an alert when that is up and available.
Yep, and you can sign up for the next Zoom in Knit already. It's on our website. There's a link in the chat available if you're interested in signing up. We'll talk about weaving in ends for sure, and talk more about squares C and D, and starting at the bottom on the second column.
Yes, I know Gianna has a special tip for how to weave in those ends, since she was the one that actually did all of her samples. So she got really good at doing them very efficiently, just crossing them. So super excited about that. And March might seem like quite a bit away, but don't worry, we're still going to be working. We're still going to be hyping people up. We want to make sure you actually finish. So keep an eye out on Instagram. We have a landing page on our website now where you can upload your own photos. You can email us at knitalong@purlsoho.com, where each photo counts as an entry into our giveaway. So please, you want to see the photos and you can get a chance to win something.
Yes.
You never know, could be you. And yeah, just email customerservice@purlsoho.com if you have any technical questions. We're monitoring both inboxes. We try to offer one-on-one project help as well if you have more specific questions where we can meet one-on-one over Zooms. That's how I know Amy.
Yeah.
And a lot of others. I just love seeing people. It's just fun to have that connection and just getting to really know your project.
Yes.
So
you can
hope to see you there.
Yes, you can upload your photos to the landing page. It's join our knit along right in the header of our website, or you can post them on Instagram with the hashtags #Purl Soho Prism Blanket or #Purl Soho KAL. And that way we'll see it and we get to interact with you and see your progress. It's fun to follow along. So yeah, that about wraps it up though. Thank you everybody for joining us. We are excited. Stay in touch. And we hope to see you at the next one. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.